Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Canadian trumpeter, composer, and arranger Daniel Hersog. He opened up about his new CD, Night Devoid of Stars, coming out on June 12th, 2020, with his orchestra, featuring the great Noah Preminger and Frank Carlberg. He talked about the beginnings of his career and how everything has transpired up to this point. He is a very important voice on the Canadian and international jazz scene. He's toured North America leading large ensembles, and he's got great insights. Enjoy.
Dan, thank you for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, it's an honor to be included as a guest on this show because you've had so many great interviews. I'm thrilled to do it.
Cool. Yeah, it's an honor to speak with you. Thank you for reaching out and sending over the album. I always love new material, love profiling cats, so thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
So let's go ahead and kind of start off here. You sent over an album, and I want to know from you, what was kind of your what's your artistic vision? I know you have until June, but what were you going for with this release?
Well, I had sort of a few different goals. I would say mainly my goal was to write large ensemble music, to feature Noah Preminger on tenor saxophone and Frank Carlberg on piano. And I wanted to write music that kind of featured their improvisational voices to give the space to do what they do, but also have it include kind of meaningful large ensemble contributions. So they're soloing sort of in the textures, they have open spaces, they're with the ensemble, and I tried to write kind of an album worth of music that could feature the two of them with my big band.
And there's so much history with all of you musicians, and just with Frank and Noah, and there's so much going on. Did you feel like you were having a conversation when you made this album, or what did it feel like in the studio?
It felt very comfortable because I had played with them so much, and I know they're playing so well. Both of those guys have really helped shape my music as a composer, and they've played my music from its sort of infancy stages when it was quite rough around the edges till now. So it felt very comfortable, and there was a beautiful connection between Frank and Noah and the Vancouver musicians on the record. Like, it felt like everyone had been playing together for years.
Were you born and raised in Vancouver, or where were you raised?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Vancouver, and that's where I spent my whole life up until age 28. I moved to Boston, Massachusetts, where I studied at New England Conservatory, where Frank was my teacher and Noah was my classmate. So that was my connection to them.
Right on. So how did you get involved with music and more specifically jazz?
Well, I was the benefit of having an amazing high school music educator. So I was in my high school jazz band, and I was the recipient of a lot of generous advice from the local professionals in town. There was a great Vancouver jazz trumpet player named Donnie Clark who would come to my high school once a week and give me free trumpet lessons. I went to Capilano University, where I'm on faculty now, but I did an undergrad there in jazz trumpet and was mentored by wonderful faculty there and made a lot of great musical connections.
What about music? What albums were you listening to when you were really getting into jazz that really got you going?
When I was really getting into jazz at the very beginning, it would have been Clifford Brown's Study in Brown. That one absolutely floored me. I think I needed help out from my seat after I heard that one. Frank Sinatra Live at the Sands was played in a loop at my house because my father is just an absolute Frank Sinatra fanatic. So I listened to that one all the time. Miles Ahead was a huge one for me, hearing Gil Evans writing early on. And a Duke Ellington record called Uptown that I absolutely loved.
Yeah, those are great albums. So did you always know that you were going to become a musician? Was being a professional something that was on your radar, or did you have other dreams?
No, I think it was always just music for me. I just hoped to be involved in as many ways as possible. And I started out as a performer, and the composing came sort of as a natural extension for that. As it started as just writing music for my own small ensemble trumpet gigs to play, and then I kind of expanded my palette to more and more instruments. But I think always music was the goal, yeah.
So when you started out and you started playing your first professional gigs, were you nervous? Was the stage kind of a natural extension of who you are?
Oh my gosh, I was terrified. I was, I think, in a lot of dance band gigs when I was in high school, playing with trumpet players who were much older than me and had much more experience. And I was pretty well, I would say my first few years of professional gigging, I was just scared on the bandstand, kind of my knees knocking together when I was about to play.
So what was one of the very first jazz shows you saw live that really inspired you?
Oh, my gosh. It was Dizzy Gillespie and the Alumni All-Stars. And this show was particularly amazing because we saw it at a theater at UBC. And for whatever reason, the cheapest tickets were the ones closest to the stage. I guess they kept their pricing like if you were to see a full orchestra. But this was a small ensemble. So we happened into these seats in the front row, and it was John Faddis on trumpet, James Moody on saxophones, Slide Hampton, Rini Rosnes on piano, Dennis McCrell on drums, and John Lee on the bass. And
wow.
I had never heard John Faddis live before. This was pre-YouTube, but I found on the internet this kind of trumpet nerd website called trumpetstuff.com, and it had a few clips of John Faddis, and I'm blown away.
Nice. So, dedicating your life to it, and loving it as much as you do. Why do you love jazz?
I love it because it's different each time. I love it because of the way I can communicate with the people I play with. And I just have towards the history. It's such a big idea. It's such an important thing. And I just kind of wanted to be a part of it in my tiny little way.
So everything's going to come down to this. Everyone has their interpretation of the perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans. But you know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
I'm also very social. I love to be surrounded by different viewpoints, and maybe that into the big band because it allows me to be surrounded by 17 of my friends, and here they're kind of different musical ideas all meld together.
Hey, Daniel, thank you for reaching out. Thank you for the music. I look forward to playing it. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Toronto, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Daniel for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.